Well, good morning, everybody. It's me, Robert Phoenix, your Astro weatherman, and I apologize for being tardy. Oh my God, it's 9 minutes after the top of the hour. I am behind today, but we always have Miss Peachy. That's right. How is everybody? I hope you're having a great morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in this realm. And today we're going to be talking primarily about the eclipse. We have an eclipse happening, and it's going to kick in just after, I believe, midnight here, and it will be visible in North America. It is called the Bloodworm Moon Eclipse, which sounds positively biblical, absolutely biblical, and we're gonna kind of look at it through that lens today, um, because we're in Easter season, and we're beginning to have these eclipses. And I think it's a really interesting sequence of moons and a sun, by the way, because there's one in the 21st of September, which is the fall. And but it's starting here, you know, and we have a late Easter, but let's be honest, this is Easter season. I was at the HEB the other day, and I saw their Easter candy, so it must be Easter season. And I think these eclipses happening and really starting during this Easter season is very interesting. And clearly, there are what I would call biblical overtones. And I'm not a Bible scholar. I know a little bit to be dangerous, but well, you'll see when we get there. And there's some other things that are connected to this eclipse that I think are very, very important. Um, Cassandra Lynn says the moon is bright this morning. Yeah, let me just do my glasses here a little bit. A little foggy. Maybe it's my brain and not the glasses. Oh, what do you want? Oh, you want more pets, don't you? Maria Donge. We got Maria sighting, Susan sighting, Scrubby sighting, T. Jordan sighting, Harry Bowie, SP Dimples in the house. Liddy Lou, love the Cadbury chocolate eggs with sugar shells and pastels. This eclipse is hitting between and conjunct my Pluto and Uranus. So it'll be interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So you're part of that Pluto Uranus 1960s conjunction generation. Let's see who else. We got Lena Winkler and Limitless Road, Alicia. Who else? My man Ryan's back in the mix. Always good to see him. I could just throw. You know what I could just do? I could just throw this up here. Scrubbies. Look at that. See, that way, if I do this, I can save probably about, I don't know, 5 minutes just by doing this. There we go. Shout out, shout out, shout out. Love it. Love it. Let's see what else we got. Casglow. Hi, Casglow. Premonition. Premonition. Leah Reynolds and Crazy for Coconuts. Kate. Kate in the house. Claire's here as well. Hey, we got Lewis Walton sighting. What's happening, Lewis? New brokerage. Start with new brokerage tomorrow in the eclipse. Wow, that's auspicious. Don't fear eclipses. Do not fear the reaper. The repercussions. You don't have to. Okay, let's see. Do I have the right person here? Hold on. Oh, yes, I do. I do. Hey, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button as always. And also hit the bell. Hit the like button if you like it. Hit the bell if you want to be notified when I do this at 8 a.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tomorrow here on this channel, hold on a second. Here we go. Let me just get this chart up here. Okay. All right. Tomorrow on the Friday forecast, we'll be looking at Alan Dershowitz. And by default, Mike Cernovich as well. And it's going to be an interesting show. For all you people who are craving and hungry for Epstein material, we'll have some tomorrow here at noon. All right, let me see. I was trying to find this other chart that will help illustrate the eclipse. Here we go. Let's go here. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, let's get into it. Thanks for your patience here. So let's talk about this eclipse. Right here, there we go. And let me make sure I have it on the screen. Guess what? I don't have it on the screen. I do not have it. This is what happened yesterday. See, now I checked, right? I checked. That's right. That's right. That way, I don't have to get a text from Steve. There we go. See, look at that. Look at that. I'm all over it today. Quality control in the house. We'll boost it up a little bit. All right. So here we go. This is the aforementioned blood, worm, moon, eclipse. So tonight, again, if you look at the time here, it's going to start about midnight here in North America, and you'll be able to see it here in North America, and some of you people in Europe. It's a very long eclipse phase. This is kind of unusual. You know, usually when there's an eclipse period, maybe 15, 20 minutes. This one is much more extended. So the idea with these blood moon worm, the moon tends to be reddish in hue. And one of the reasons why is because, again, the idea is that there is a proximity to the Earth. And for reasons that are theoretically scientific, we'll just tip our cap to science here. It has to do with being closer to the Earth's atmosphere. Wrap your head around that. And that's why it has a reddish hue. Now, if you're a supernatural or superstitious type, the blood red moon can be an augur and an omen of things to come that may not be particularly pleasant. So keep your eyes open for other phenomena in the wake of the moon that replicates the red hue. So we're talking red rivers, um, parts of the ocean with red algae tide, things like this, right? Um, Anything that reflects the celestial phenomena here that is going to mirror that red color will be interpreted as a sign. Because we, starting with this eclipse, we're moving into what I call a very biblical cycle. And again, I'm not a Bible scholar, right? But I'm also not uninformed here. And one of the things we're going to look at is we're going to look at the theoretical birth chart of Jesus, right? We're going to look at that. And we're also going to look at the crucifixion chart because supposedly on the day of the crucifixion, there is a lunar eclipse. Now, they talk about the sun going dark. This is one of the strange things about the crucifixion. They talk about the sun going dark. Well, there's not a solar eclipse, but there is a lunar eclipse. And the lunar eclipse, that cycle, that lunar eclipse cycle actually began last year with the Libra Aries axis. But because of the fact that there's this theoretical lunar eclipse that happens on the crucifixion day of Jesus, right? That, of course, it is connected to Easter, and we're in Easter season. It behooves us to look at these eclipses through that lens, okay? The other part of this, which is biblical, and I'm going to try to bring that up here as well, is that the theoretical birth date of Jesus is not in December, but in September. And September, of course, being the sign of the Virgin. And where is this eclipse falling? In the sign of the Virgin, albeit on the lunar side. So we have this interesting bookend, which is the theoretical birth of Jesus. We'll look at that chart and I'll show you kind of where this eclipse falls. And then the crucifixion, in which there's a lunar eclipse. And of course, that is on Easter. We're in Easter season. Do you understand? Okay, so I've kind of laid the ground here. And when we talk about Virgo, we are talking about the Virgin. We're talking about the mother. This is a mother archetype. The maternal archetype is through Virgo. Okay? Because this is historically, archetypally, mythologically, the virgin birth, i.e. September, right? Even though we're not in September, this is a September moon because it's a Virgo full moon. Okay, so just keep that in context, okay? And there's lots of layers to this kind of birth metaphor. And some of this I'm going to get into over on 15 Minutes of Flame. By the way, there are people who have asked, well, how do I get to that show? I always leave the links in the description of this show, right? So the show notes, which are there now, if you want to go to Rumble or you want to go to Boxcast, those links are there. So I'm going to talk more about this kind of at length. And again, I am not a Bible scholar, but it feels like we're moving into a very prophetic time with these eclipses. Now, keep in mind, with the exception of one, these are all lunar. So whether it's lunar in Pisces or lunar in Virgo, these are going to be lunar eclipses, which is interesting, right? So again, it's the evocation of the feminine and the mother. And so this is a maternal eclipse. So I've been thinking about this eclipse and how it relates to the egg, right? And this whole idea of the egg being this omnipresent symbol of life. And for the last, 3 months, this omnipresent symbol of life has become almost a fetish. It's become so expensive. People are hoarding these eggs. There's all kinds of like psychological programming going on, but there's also this archetypal piece, right? So you have eggs going through the roof. The chickens are being slaughtered because of the supposed bird flu, and the egg represents fertility. And again, this is the season here in the northern hemisphere where fertility is front and center. This is what Easter is all about, is a celebration of fertility. So on the pagan side of things, that's exactly what it's about. On the religious side of things, there is a symbol of fertility, which is the rebirth of the sun, the S-O-N, right? And the rebirth of the sun is also congruent with the rebirth of the S-U-N. I'm sure they worked it out just like that. Now, I've been thinking a lot about COVID over the last 48 hours, and I've had some very real conversations with people about COVID, clients. And I would say that probably about 98% of the people who come to me as clients have not been vaccinated for COVID. And first of all, tip of the cap to you for doing that. And a lot of these people have suffered tremendously with the loss of their job, the ability to do things in public, friends, family. This is a story that, for me, is more than puzzling. This is one of the hugest events in modern history, and people are creeping around like nothing ever happened. And it's devastated our society, absolutely devastated our society. And one of the things that has been fairly apparent as a result of what happened is that there are a lot of women, right, who have been experiencing problems getting pregnant. This is where the fertility comes in. This is the fertility piece. So it's when you put the two together and you go back and you look at when all this started, which was, again, 2020, right? And it really kicks off with that true node. True node, it's like the final degrees of that true node in Cancer. And then it moves into Gemini. We get into this kind of the splitting of the atom, or the splitting of the egg. It's like the egg is cracked open during that time. And as a result of this, right, everything that's happened, whether it's fertility rates, whether it's health, because remember, Virgo rules health as well. It's not just the moon and fertility, although this is part of it. Health, like everything that's happened since 2020 is just off the charts, completely off the charts. And I feel like this is also a big part of this much larger kind of equation in existential like reality that people are dealing with now, because the world is not the same. Yeah, I mean, we have our same rituals. I go to the gym, we go to HEB, whatever those rituals, we have those rituals, but it's not the same world. We are living in a different world. And the world that we're living in, for many people, has lost its meaning. I can't tell you, again, how many people that I interact with, especially on the client side, who don't know what to do. I've got clients lined up who, again, this thing has devastated their lives. They've lost family members. Some of them have been parents, because the parents have been carjacked, right? And now they have to clean up their lives, and they've inherited their homes, and maybe they don't even want to live where those homes are, but they don't know where to go. And it's like, What about our dreams? It's like everything since COVID, it almost feels like, the etheric matter has just been sucked out of our reality. And people who aspired to do things, whatever those things were, I'm gonna attack this career, or I'm going to, you know, get a second house and turn it into a brand. I mean, whatever it is, like a lot of those things have just fallen away. And people are kind of walking around, not necessarily in a daze, but they're like, hey, I still feel pretty normal. But the reality isn't matching up with who I am and what I'm feeling. And this is where this eclipse comes into play. Because if you think about the moon and you think about what the moon represents, it does represent this idea of the mother. What does the mother do? It gives birth, right? This is the function of the mother. And now we're dealing with this Virgo moon, and not just any moon. It's not the moon in Libra, right? It's not the moon in Leo. Those are nice moons. Those are fine moons. But this is specifically the moon that represents this idea of this woman who had this virgin birth. This is why this is very, very specific. These eclipses, and it starts here with this moon. So we have these births that are becoming very difficult on a biological level. I don't think anybody can really, you could dispute it, but I'm sure either anecdotally or with some kind of, empirical data, we could establish the fact that there is a problem with births in general. We talk about the birth rate being low, which is why we have theoretically all these new people in our societies, right? Whether that's true or not, it's a different show. But again, it's this idea around birth, and the moon clearly represents it, and the moon in Virgo clearly represents a special kind of birth, a birth that is unlike any other birth, right? And over here, we have all of this Pisces, and we were talking about the sun and Saturn in Pisces, and the sun now is in front of Saturn. So this is a very different kind of sun, right? This is more about your own personal authority versus the external authority. But I digress a little bit here. So what are we dealing with here, right? What are we dealing with this eclipse? Well, I think that the first and foremost, that it represents kind of a stage of where we are evolutionarily, right? It's like we've kind of topped out. We've topped out with technology. We have the iPhone. We have the latest iteration of the iPhone, with AI, whatever, right? Okay, so is that the pinnacle of society? Oh, we have AI coming. Oh, isn't that great? Is that the new synthetic, birth? Is this the new thing that we're going to give birth to? This kind of this Frankenstein monster, which will take over and invade all of our systems like kudzu? Or is the type of birth we're talking about something very different? And that birth being this idea that we have been in this spiritual embryosis for a while, right? And as the physical world begins to lose its meaning, because it is, the physical world is losing its meaning. People are not as motivated to go out and conquer the world or tackle their dreams. I mean, they're probably more invested in creating a shit coin or a meme coin or just barely staying alive, right? Where did that momentum go? Well, when the physical world begins to kind of fall away, which is really what's happening. I mean, you could look at the layoffs, look at the closures of all these different companies. Like the physical world is evaporating before our very eyes. So if our connection to this world is physical and it is falling away, well, what does that mean for us? Well, it means that we are in this very uncomfortable birthing process. This is where we are, because we're not in that pre-2020 world, which was even weird. Like, it was still weird, but it got weirder, way weirder after 2020. You know, pre-2020, people are still working on their 401ks, and it's like, oh, okay, well, how's that place that we turned into the Airbnb doing? Are we making a profit over there? Right? Oh, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to, get this degree or certification because, if I do this, then I'm going to get a raise in my job and get a promotion and I'll be able to move up to the next level, right? And there are a lot of people, prior to 2020 that were doing, and some people are still doing it, but it feels like the window is closing on the material world, the physical world. The window is closing on it. And so we have a bunch of people now who are in this place where I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. And I really, and I still think I know who I am, but we usually define ourselves against the physical world because that's the nature of our experience. And if that is going away, then who am I? And where are my dreams? And what about my kids? And, what about the planet, I guess? Well, this is exactly where we need to be. And this eclipse is going to bring that up because we are in this cycle, which is like an echo of time that goes all the way back again to the theoretical birth of Jesus, Sananda, whatever name you want to use, right? And then, of course, this idea of the crucifixion, where there is an eclipse, a lunar eclipse that takes place during the time of Easter. And here we are, it's a lunar eclipse during the time of Easter. And you can say, Robert, well, this has historically happened before. Yes, but this is not like any other historical time. We could go back to any of these eclipse cycles during Virgo Pisces and look, but this is different. Right? It's different. And it's different because of the exact condition that I've been talking about. People are unsure of where to go and what to do. And the connection to the physical world, again, is beginning to fall away. I love sports. I've always loved sports. But I look around at the sports world, I'm like, Major League Baseball, I loved Major League Baseball. The team that I used to root for, they're gone. Like, they're playing in Sacramento, and Major League Baseball is going to have robot umpires. It's like, really? It's like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I have very little interest in that. The NFL, it's like I don't have a lot of interest in that. I mean, I do to some extent, but not like I did. And it's for various reasons. So if you go across the board, I was talking with a friend yesterday, Daryl Hall is coming to San Antonio. I'm like, do I want to see a legacy artist? Because sometimes legacy artists are painful to watch. But I think Daryl Hall will be pretty good. He's kept himself in pretty good shape and he can still sing. So I'm like, okay, I can sign. But again, the artists that we identify with they're going away. Gene Hackman just passed away. Gene fucking Hackman, one of the greatest actors of our time. And not only did he pass away, but he passed away under very strange circumstances. And so we're seeing, again, all of these people that we've been connected to historically, they're dying. Right? These are all remnants of this idea of the physical world that we once knew. And then you have this movie, Anora, which wins, the best picture. And then you have this actress who won Best Actress award. Like, who the fuck is she? And I'm not here to insult her or her generation, but who are these people? And will they be able to, like, will Zendaya, wind up being another version of Elizabeth Taylor? No, the answer is no. Right? She's there. She's a product. Look at Ariana Grande. I talk about losing touch with the material world. The woman looks like, she's, a concentration camp person. I mean, that's how emaciated she looks. This is another symbol of the physical world is kind of going away. So when that happens, what is the next phase of our reality? Well, the next phase of our reality has very little to do with the physical world. And this is what this moon represents. We are in the beginning stages of that, where we are essentially in a 2-year cycle of spiritual crisis. Now, the spiritual crisis is downstream from the material crisis. Because once you hit the material crisis head on, whether it's the crashing of the economy or inflation or this idea where I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do. A lot of the things in my life no longer have any meaning. Right? The spiritual crisis is downstream from that. But you have to have that hitting the wall moment. And we're about to hit the wall. We are about to hit the wall because this material crisis is going to accelerate. I have a client I'm going to meet with today, lives in another part of the world. Just threw up her hands, said, I'm done. I am done. I am done. I'm done. I'm done with the corporate world. I can never go back there again. It made me incredibly sick. I don't know what to do. But I know not what to do. And that's what I used to do. And there are a lot of people who are in the used to do phase, but they don't know what to do next. That's where we are. And this is what this eclipse is about because it's shadowy, right? The idea of the eclipse is that it's shadowy. It's a shadowy. There is a shadowy pall that has been cast over us, and we're trying to kind of wipe the sleep from our eyes. And then when we do, we want to go back to bed because it's not a very pleasant sight. So to me, this is what the eclipse, and I'm going to talk more about it over on 15 minutes. And some of this I'll actually reference deeper. What I'll do is I'm going to save the other charts for that. And that way, honestly, I'll have more content and I can build out more of a show. Right. So my message here is to not freak out. First of all, if you fit the description of what I've been talking about, just know you're not alone. You are not alone in this. There are millions of people in this realm, and they're not NPCs. These are people who are conscious, doing their best to be self-aware and awake, and they don't know what to do either. Right? They just don't know what to do, and it's in some cases it can be, I would say, perhaps physically challenging in terms of employment or job shutdown, whatever. Right? But it's beyond. It goes beyond that. In some cases, many of these people are employed, and they're able to pay their rent and buy very expensive eggs. But it's like, so what? And you can say, well, geez, Robert, why don't you go over to some bumfuck place in Africa where the water they drink is the same water that they shit and piss in, which in some cases is true, I'm sorry to say. You don't know how good you have it. Well, okay, it's all relative. But we all desire meaning in our lives. It's very important. It's critical. And Virgo is one of those signs that defines meaning. It defines purpose. It defines work. And for a lot of you folks who were born in that mid 60s era, roughly from what, like 63, 64 to about 69, with that Pluto Uranus conjunction, these eclipses are going to be they're going to be critical for you. And the reason why, and I've always felt this, is that people born under that Uranus Pluto conjunction have very interesting traits and skills. And a lot of it has to do with healing, physical and spiritual healing. And if you're born during this period, like 60, we'll go late 63 to 69, that 6-year period, that these eclipses are going to force you to deal with whatever latent superpower this Uranus-Pluto conjunction from that time is. So for you folks, it's both crisis and opportunity, because you'll realize, oh yeah, well, maybe this is what I'm meant to do. You know, maybe what you're meant to do, for lack of a better term, is become a spiritual midwife and help other people get through this time of crisis. Whether you're an herbalist, or whether you're a physical therapist, or whether you're a human design person, whatever that is, and you're born during this period, guess what? It's like, it's your time. And you may not get rich, but you will have purpose and meaning. And for the rest of us who aren't born during that time, it's fine, right? You don't necessarily have to be born during that time. But ultimately, where we're going through this is, for lack of a better term, a spiritual awakening, because that's the only place we can go. Because as the physical world falls away, and our connection to the things that we used to do, the jobs we used to have, the people that we used to watch on the big screen or the small screen, or the people that we used to listen to, they're all going away. It's all going away. Our families are going away. Our friends are passing away. And those are physical manifestations of that. The other side of the eclipse, the other side of the moon, the other side of Virgo is Pisces. Pisces is the end of the zodiac. It's the end of the line, right? I mean, and look at where Neptune is, freaking 29 degrees. You know, we're going to have Saturn and Neptune conjuncting. This is significant. It's incredibly significant. This is literally the end of this Piscean age. Of course, we have Pluto and Aquarius and everything that goes along with that, right? This is the end of the Pisces. This is theoretically a time of spiritual deliverance. Now, are we going to have more crises after this when Saturn and Neptune go into Aries? More likely, right? But there's another story attached to that, which I don't want to get into right now. So just kind of rounding this up. And again, this is all just really eclipse related stuff today. And I'm going to get to the start of the day. Just rounding this eclipse up. If you feel like the meaning and value has been sucked out of your life, you're not alone. You are not alone. There are millions and millions of people out there, and this eclipse is going to trigger that, because this is what Virgo is about. Virgo is about, finding your dharma. Virgo is all about purpose. Virgo is all about, being of service. Virgo needs meaning, whether it's analytical, empirical, whatever, right? It needs that. And here we have this eclipse moon. It's like, well, it's not there. It's not there. What is there? What is there is the beginning of this cycle. So I believe, based on everything that we're talking about, I believe that we are in this birth canal process now, right? And this is going to roughly last through this eclipse cycle, because what's going to happen with the nodes? The nodes are going to flip. That true node is going to go into Aquarius when we're done with this eclipse cycle. The south node will go into Leo. And when that true node goes into Aquarius, that is a pivotal time, incredibly pivotal time. And we're either going to go hive mind or we will go to the next level. And maybe those two things are not mutually exclusive. When I was getting into like new thought or new age kind of ideas, right? The most prevalent idea is that the second coming was not going to be the embodiment of one person who would return, that the second coming was going to be collective, that the spirit of Christ would be embodied by everyone, which is the true spirit of the Aquarian age. That is the true spirit of the Aquarian age. It's everybody, not just one, right? Now, if that holds true, that quaint thought that I used to think about in my 20s, and the nodes are headed to Aquarius Leo, then we are on the precipice of that. And it's this eclipse cycle, which is the birthing process. And it starts right here with the moon in Virgo, the mother. Right? The mother, the biblical mother, the biological mother, the metaphysical mother. And it's going to stare us right in the face tonight. And it's going to be blood red. Right? And even that blood red kind of connotation that's connected like with the uterus and uterine walls, and even when a child is born, like there's blood around the child, right? And this is what it feels like symbolically. This blood red moon is the beginning of this birth cycle, which will culminate when these eclipses are done. And throughout all of this, the physical world and the material world are going to be oscillating back and forth, back and forth. And at the end of the day, look at all the Pisces down here on the other side of the moon. What does it represent? It represents the spiritual world. Virgo is the physical world. Pisces is the spirit. Virgo is the hands of the spirit. Do you see where this is going? Like, so this is the moon right here. And what is the moon doing? Ultimately, by the end of this eclipse cycle, it's giving birth to this, which moves into Aquarius, which is the collective birth of the return of this spirit, the Christ spirit, which has never really left. It's always been here. But there's something about this time, and maybe it has to do with this rejection of the material world, where the material world is falling away, and you just become more aware of things that are non-corporeal. All right, let me get into the star of the day. I'm going to talk more about this over on 15 minutes, and I'm going to bring in some other charts. So the links there, if you're interested in hearing more about this and exploring this idea more, we'll talk about it over there. All right. Let's get into our True Hemp Science star of the day. Brought to you by True Hemp Science, your one-stop shop for all things CBD. That's right. I was talking with, again, one of my clients yesterday. She said, I bought some of those sleep gummies. I love them. They're working. Yes, they do work. In fact, I had some last night. Now, just an aside, if you are using the sleep gummies, what I like to do is I will do sleep gummies for 2 weeks and I will take a week off. And if you still want to supplement your sleep, use some melatonin, maybe some theanine. Just allow your system to kind of reset, and then you can go back for roughly another 2. Because what happens with anything is you build up a tolerance, right? So it's good to take about a week off, and then you can go 2 weeks back on. And then, by the way, it will stretch out your gummies as well. So if you spend $100 or more, type in 15, that's 15 MINS, you'll get the goodie bag. The goodie bag. And the goodie bag is your Whitman sampler of all things CBD at truehempscience.com. And remember, whatever you purchase, part of that goes to the defense fund to keep CBD legal here in Texas. Don't let them take our CBD. Hands off our CBD. There's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. All right, quickly, let's talk a little bit about Peaches Geldof. Kind of a thin day today for the star of the day. But Peaches Geldof is the daughter of Sir Bob Geldof and Paula Yates, who was his wife at the time when they had these girls with very unusual names. Peaches probably being one of the more normal names. Now, the whole Geldof thing is bizarre, right? The feud with Michael Hutchence dying under strange circumstances, Paula Yates, who was a presenter, she was married to Geldof. There's this famous interview she does with Hutchence, and it's like they're taking each other's clothes off right before the camera. And that's where it all starts, this one interview. And eventually she has a child with Michael Hutchence. But there's a huge custody battle. It's ugly. Peaches Geldof grows up. She becomes a journalist. She becomes a model. She is an it girl. And before you know it, she's dead. Dead. Why? How does it happen? Let's take a look at her 8th house. There's something big going on here, right? Moon, Mars, Jupiter, all in Gemini, right? All in this house that's related to the taboo. You can see with Libra rising, look, you want to see Libra rising? Here's Libra rising right here. There's your Libra rising. That's what it looks like. Very symmetrical. She was a model. She was a mom. She had kids. But beneath all that Venusian symmetry and beauty, there's Pluto right here in the 1st house, lurking, dark, intense. Now, Pluto here is actually fairly well aspected. Comes in, trines the sun, trines Venus. She's got all this Pisces, huge amount of sensitivity, like incredibly sensitive person. Could she be, when I look at her chart, it's like, where is she a heroin addict? Because that's theoretically what she died from, was a heroin overdose. Where is she a heroin addict? I mean, astrologically, honestly, I don't really see it unless you're talking about Jupiter, right? And Jupiter coming in and squaring Mercury, and more. I mean, is that what we're talking about here? Usually when there's addiction involved, you'll see an affliction with Pluto and or Neptune. And with the exception of maybe Chiron, which is in a very wide opposition, I don't really see it. Now, one of the things that Peaches Geldof started to get into and uncover was trafficking. She was starting to raise a ruckus about trafficking. And I've always felt that Bob Geldof is a very dark character. And when I see all this 8th house material, it's like, what went on in this girl's life? What went on behind the scenes that we don't know about? Because this is really where the stress and the conflict in the chart is. It's what's hidden. And again, I think she tried to dredge up but she was, and I clearly remember this, because for a while she was, how would I describe her? she was kind of this, you know, she was like a classic archetypal millennial. Like, what do what do you believe in besides partying and, like hanging out with trashy rock stars? Like, what, not her father, but what are you all about? You don't see the chart? What the fuck is that? Here we go. Thank you, Tom. It's right here. Here's what I'm talking about right here. Thanks, Tom. Like, what are you all about? Yeah, you're beautiful. You're the daughter of, like, rock royalty, Sir Bob Geldof. And you look at her and she's a model, and you're thinking, well, this is just all very superficial and kind of fluffy. And then all of a sudden she starts to get into this trafficking stuff, right? She starts to kind of dig beneath the surface of things. And I think when she did that, she began to uncover things about her own life, which made her very uncomfortable. And when you get into Gemini, to me, Gemini is really like MK Ultra territory. It's all about splitting and fragmenting. This is a person who had experienced very deep trauma. You can see this. You can see this with these squares from Gemini in the 8th house to all this very sensitive material around all these Pisces planets. And then all of a sudden, she dies of a heroin overdose. What is up with that? She just had a kid. Why would a mother subject herself to heroin after she's had a child? I mean, maybe it's that Chiron in Cancer, and she was not real comfortable with it. Possible. And I'm not necessarily saying that somebody offed her, but the definition of what that looks like could be very, very different. Maybe that offing process started a long time before whatever theoretically entered into her veins. That at a certain point in time, she was going to become aware of things. And those things would trigger, ultimately, her demise. This is a very tragic person. And I know there's some people like, well, she didn't really die. She's somebody else now. Yeah, sometimes that's true, and sometimes that's not true. So I believe that just looking at the chart and surviving these squares would be kind of Promethean. Because at a certain point in time, this would all go off like a time bomb here, and that she would realize certain things. So what was really driving her awareness around traffic? Because I remember her doing this like 180. I'm like, whoa, this little party girl is all of a sudden getting real serious. What's that all about? And how much of that was really about her versus the things that she was starting to follow and get into and cover, right? And then there's the weird backdrop of Geldof and Yates and Hutchins and that whole weird world and that very strange story, which she is a part of. So there you go. Peaches Geldof, your True Hemp Science star of the day. Wherever you are, whether it's in this world or the next, I hope you are at peace. All right, that's it. We are behind schedule. Thank you for being here. We'll be over on 15 minutes. Remember, the links are in the description of the show. We'll talk more about this eclipse, and I'll bring up some of these other charts that I did not do here. And I think it's a good thing that I didn't do it, because I'll have more content. All right. Thanks a lot. Treat each other well. God bless you. Love you all. Take care. Bye for now.